microphone. And so I have the pleasure to give the floor to Professor Dr. Miroslav Đorđević.
Thank you so much, dear Professor Fernando, dear professors, colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. It is truly a pleasure to be here, and we shouldn't be concerned about technological issues. We should be happy that we were able to have this conference with two different parts of the world joining together. So these are little stutters that we will hopefully overcome. And here you can see in my presentation one technical issue as well. All the letters got mixed up. What was supposed to say there is Serbia's judicial reform and new perspectives. And in a sense of those new perspectives, we are here and we are honored to be your guests, and I'm honored to be here in front of you today. So now I will not bother you too much about the general information, but let's just emphasize where we are in the moment. We are the Republic of Serbia, liberal democratic republic with a semi-presidential system of government. It's a unitary state and a legal successor to former Yugoslavia. The thing is that if we talk about the population or the scope of the country in territorial sense, it is incomparable to Brazil. But still, we are the nation, quite an old nation with roots dating back to Middle Ages, and we have some experience regarding judiciary and judicial issues, as well as some challenges that we're facing now. I think the microphone is working, that is a good thing. Maybe it's working too much now, but we're almost there. We will make it. Okay, so thank you. So this is just a, nice moment from the past, nice monument of our legal history. This is actually the Emperor Dušan's Code from the mid-14th century in Serbia, which is not one of it is not the oldest legal text that we have, but it is the first one to proclaim judicial independence. So this notion of judicial independence is not new to us. However, if we can go on the next one, please. If we make quite a short glimpse to our history, you can see that Serbia achieved its first statehood somewhere in the middle of the 9th century. Then it lasted, it was a kingdom and then an empire till the mid-15th century when we fell under the Turkish Ottoman rule. After a couple of centuries, Serbia started to regain its independence, starting from 1804 and the first Serbian uprising. And then it became princedom, then kingdom again, only to become the part of the Kingdom of Yugoslavia after the First World War. After the Second World War, we also had Yugoslavia, but this time a federative state, unlike the previous one, which was unitary. And we had a socialist ideology and a socialist government in power. This is important because these are basically the roots and causes of some of the challenges that we're facing with today. Could we go to the next one, please? Yugoslavia lasted till the beginning of the 90s. It was a federative state, in some way similar to Brazil, but in some way a bit different because it was symmetrical. In Brazil, your federation system is much more complex. We had 6 republics, and the Yugoslavia dissolved into 6 independent states. This is oversimplified version of the history, but for our needs right now, this is enough. We have now Slovenia, Croatia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, North Macedonia, Montenegro, and the Republic of Serbia. Please, could we go to the next one? After the fall of communism and our return to the liberal democratic constitutionality, we've introduced the multi-party system once again and went back to the old paths with the Constitution of 1990. On the lower part of the screen, you can see the timeline. On the upper side are the Serbian constitutions, as we had them since the uprising against Turks. And you have also, that is on the lower part. On the upper part are the important years for Serbian statehood and where we are now in this moment of my speech. If we can go to the next one, please. Now this is the present constitution, enacted in 2006, in large part based on its predecessors, with some improvements, but also series of flaws. All those flaws show themselves particularly in the domain of judiciary. And instantly, when it was enacted, it was heavily criticized by the Venice Commission being one of the supreme authorities for constitutional law questions in the world, not only in countries members of the Council of Europe, because the Venice Commission is much broader. Can we go to the next one, please? Like many other post-communist societies, we were facing certain challenges. Lots of decades of communist rule changed the mentality and the perspective and the understanding of the state. So if I here wrote down a couple of most prominent issues that we had, issues regarding division of powers, you could find that all around Eastern Europe. Change of mentality and understanding of the state as being a power per se. Power per se, you had to change that into concept of being the power for the sake of the citizens. According to the theory of social contract, the state exists for the sake of its citizens. We had politicization of judiciary, that I will talk a little bit more next, which meant the influence of political parties not only in the operation but for the most part into the ways how the function holders in judiciary and public prosecution are elected. Not enough guarantees for impartial decision making, and some outdated concepts, I would say, especially in the domain of public prosecution, because the system of public prosecution hasn't been reformed since the end of the Second World War. Could we go to the next one? So the flaws of our constitution are pretty much the same as what you could see in Eastern Europe. One of the difficulties and burdens that we had to overcome, and the other countries, most countries of Eastern Europe didn't have to do, is facing that horrible civil war that we had and dealing with the consequences of the civil war, which presented an additional burden in the reform process, going from the communist system to the liberal democratic constitutionality. We have the possible influence of political parties. We have a so-called probationary period, which is interesting. You elect the function holder, either a judge or the public prosecutor, for 3 years. And then after 3 years, only then you establish whether he or she will be elected there permanently for a permanent tenure. This was the serious endangerment of the impartiality, independence, and autonomy. Lack of adequate safeguards for independence, autonomous status. There are many of them. Maybe we can discuss about them later. Blurred lines of responsibility, especially in the public prosecution, which is hierarchical organ. You couldn't really establish in particular cases who is to bear the responsibility for a certain decision. Lack of some legal remedies, and lack of overall transparency. If we could go to the next one. We've decided to change that by enacting the constitutional amendments at first, followed by the set of the judicial laws. I had an honor of being a member of the group that was drafting the constitutional amendments, and I have to say that we were facing severe difficulties, especially in two fields. One are the requirements set by the present constitution for its change, for the enaction of new amendments, and the other one has to do with the mentality of the people. You have to promote solutions that are not understandable to common citizen, and you expect those citizens to go to referendum and support the enaction of the amendments. That was really difficult. You have to explain all the concepts of the division of power, safeguards of independence, etc., and that can be really challenging. But we were really happy that we have finally managed to achieve that and win the overwhelming majority of more than 2/3 of the people who voted on the referendum, and we've adopted the constitutional amendments in the beginning of 2022. Later, we also received a positive affirmative opinion from the Venice Commission. Could we go to the next one? New legal framework meant depolitization through new ways how judges and public prosecutors are being elected. The new system is complex. I won't go into detail. I will only say that the idea was to elect public prosecutors and judges by their fellow peers, but also to allow the certain amount of legitimacy of this power to remain through the National Assembly, but without the effect of the political parties, because people who are sitting in the councils, and councils are electing holders of the functions, judicial functions, mustn't have anything to do with politics. They should never be in politics. They shouldn't have any ties with politics. If you would like, we could discuss this a bit more into detail later. New legal remedies were introduced in order to ensure independent decision making. Permanent tenure was finally established, so once you elect public prosecutor or a judge, he or she remains there till basically the end of the working age. And with this increased transparency, the Constitution only set the foundation for this, but we've done this through laws and bylaws. For example, this is something that where we're maybe just slightly similar to our operation with hybrid format. We have live streaming of sessions of the council, and that is as far as we've gotten so far. Talking about that, where are we now? We, I think, started one ball rolling, and we would really like to keep going. And your experiences are hence really, really important for us. If you can see this chart over here, you have the adoption of constitutional amendments, set of judicial laws, and 18 bylaws that we've enacted in a year. So that was a lot of work, but we've managed to do it. What remains is a proper implementation that we're working hard on, increase of efficiency, digitalization, and e-proceedings as a logical next step. The other logical step is to secure the future by ensuring that the best newly graduated lawyers opt for judiciary. Because in Serbia, if I understand correctly, much unlike here, most people who are great students, once they graduate, they tend to become attorneys. So we sometimes, especially in smaller cities in Serbia, do not have good enough candidates so we can calmly promote them to become judges and public prosecutors. We would like to fix that, but it requires time. Brazil, as a worldwide leading role model, is a potential system donor for this sort of legal transplantation that we're about to do in order to make one step further in our aim to rebuild or should I say refurbish Serbian judiciary and leave all the remnants that we have less sort of legacy and burden, I must say, from the social period. It is not easy and it cannot be done overnight because it requires the change of mentality, and change of mentality often needs change of generations even, or at least some amount of time. If we could go to the next one, please. What remains is you offered us your hand, we offer your ours. Thank you so much for all the wonderful experiences that we had, and I really think that we have started a great cooperation that will go on for many, many years. Thank you.